gets ever so hot, and the vibrations in here means I always have to check for loose screws. There's no suspension at all, see? You have to stop and maintain that.
He's lost. He doesn't know what he's going to do. Right, come on. There's two in this room that we've got to keep up on.
some of the other things we've got here, because from the Tank Museum's point of view, we tell the story of armoured warfare, but of course you need lots of other types of vehicle to support tanks when they go forward into action. Logistics vehicles, in other words supply vehicles, vehicles to bring food. Their policy was, if a war came, we're going to throw money at the problem. And that's exactly what they did in 1941. They were attacked at Pearl Harbor. In the 30s, though, they've been doing some experimental work on some armoured vehicles. They made about 2 tanks a year. They made, this is called a Morris armoured car. Now again, if you've all watched the Dunkirk movie, Britain lost, just didn't have the equipment. That had been left behind. So in the summer of 1940, Britain went through an emergency crash program of trying to create new vehicles quickly. Now they actually made a vehicle called a Beaverette. They got a standard family car and put oak planks on the front. That was going to stop the Panzers if they crossed the channel. They Mark II Beaverette, we ended up with a bit of armour plate on it as well as some oak planks. And it was that desperate in the summer of 1940. They went to Lord Nuffield, who ran the Morris Motor Car Company. He got his Morris standard car and they put armour plate over the top of it. And the first model of this vehicle, the Morris armoured car, was produced very, very quickly. It kind of looks it in a weird way. It's got a bit of a higgledy-piggledy look about it. Bit of armour plate to stop a bullet. Machine gun in a mini turret. Driver sits right in the middle at the front of the vehicle. It's a really awkward thing to drive. 2 other crew members they'd squeeze in there as well. And this is actually the improved model, the Mark II vehicle. The idea of it was scouting and reconnaissance. Find out where the enemy are. Report back with your radio. This would take something called a 19 set. Radio the information back in. Now you're at Bovington, so there'll be vehicles training going around the roads all the time. We'll talk about those a bit later on. Now another one of those classic looking vehicles from the Second World War. This is an American half-track vehicle. And what they've done with this vehicle, they made a little 4-wheel drive vehicle called a White Scout car. Same front on it, and basically what they did, very sensibly, they chopped the front of that Scout car off, stuck a longer body on the back with tracks on, glued the 2 things together as it were, and they made the half-track. This particular version of it is called an M16. And again, you know, there's all these little numbers of things. M normally means model, and then they give a number, the type of half-track it is. And the M16 version has this 4 whopping breakbeat .50 caliber machine guns in the back. .50, it's the size of the bullet, half-an-inch bullet that fires out the end. Now, the idea of the half-track, the Americans think you're going to need to be able to take the soldiers forward into battle under some sort of protection. Now, I think we can all agree this one now looks like a proper tank should look like. And this tank coming on, this is a British tank from the end of the Second World War. This is called the Comet. And I'll just let you listen to the lovely engine sound. The fact we lost quite a few of them out in France in 1940. We concentrated in Britain in 1940 onwards to build aeroplanes like Spitfires and Hurricanes to defend ourselves, and then bombers to get back at Germany. Tanks and armoured vehicles took us second place for a while, and we were really lucky because when America comes in the war, they start producing armoured vehicles in such huge quantities they can supply them, not just for their own forces, but they supply them to Britain, Canada, even to Russia. The famous Sherman tank, again you can see inside. Our own tank development stalled a bit in the middle years of the war, but when we got going again, it's a bit of a myth to always think the Germans had the best tanks. This was an absolutely cracking tank when it went into service late in 44, early in 45. Got to remember, really, the key ingredient is the gun. That's what it's all based around. And by this stage of the war, we developed, first of all, a gun called the 17-pounder. That was the weight of shot it fired. We then changed over to measuring them by the size of the hole at the end of the barrel. So this one we call a 77mm gun. Targets, telling the driver who's down the front where to go. On the other side from the commander is the loader who's picking up those big rounds to whack into the breech of the gun. Top tip of the day, if you ever have to pick your own tank crew, pick a loader who is short, stocky, built like a Russian shot putter, because rate of fire of this tank will go down as he gets worn out. So you need someone with plenty of stamina. And the actual guy who fires the gun is in the front of the turret. He's got a telescopic sight and a foot pedal that he stamps on when he's ready to fire the gun. Now the Comet saw service at the end of the Second World War, and it went on in British service to 1958. Other armies, it was passed on to other armies, used it. Burma has still had it in service well into the 1980s. Also a good example there, tracks by the way, tracks are there like you're taking your own road with you. Right, we're moving the vehicles off, you can see them parading off there, we'll see them again in a moment. You can hear that lovely Comet engine, petrol engine in the back. Most tanks now are actually powered by diesel engines. A very good reason there, well, two very good reasons. One is safety. Diesel is harder to set on fire than petrol, and that means the guys inside, if they're hit, have a few more seconds to get out. And the second obvious reason, if you've only got, now the British Army have a one fuel policy, if you've only got diesel engines, you've never got the chance of doing what sometimes happens with a family car, putting diesel in a petrol engine or petrol in a diesel. You know the arguments that causes. Imagine that on the battlefield if you did that at night and ruining an engine, your commander is not going to be happy with you. So most vehicles in the army, certainly in the British Army now, they're all diesel. They even make tanks without turrets on because they're cheaper and quicker to make. Where are they? Come on, you must have seen one panto. Right, here comes the Germans. Right, now that tank they've got there, they call it something called an assault gun, or the Germans they call it a Sturmgeschütz. And it's a really clever way. Instead of making a tank with a turret on that costs lots more money because all the engineering needed, they made tanks with the gun stuck in the front of the hull. And that was great for defence. You knew where the enemy was coming from. It's got a few degrees turning up and down, left and right, and great for defence. And look, they've come out there, and they're going to defend that really important position behind us here, that little mound. And he's hidden his tank, hiding it behind there, ready, almost in a bit of a trap. First of all, what strength they're in, what's the best way of getting at them? Because again, if you're going to use your tanks, you can hear a tank coming from miles off, that noise, but you taught how to hide it in the landscape. Really important, keep hidden from the enemy. There's all sorts of things you can do, call in artillery fire onto the enemy's position. You can do all that just by using your radio. There's a comment that the best weapon on a reconnaissance vehicle is its radio. That's the important thing. you find out, will the bridges take the weight of your big heavy tanks coming up behind? But the important thing, he reports all that back to the force commander before the attack. The army has a phrase, time spent on reconnaissance is rarely wasted. Now, here comes then our attack force. So we've got our tank, that's the Comet, with a big anti-tank gun on the top of it, high-powered gun there, followed by the half-track vehicle with the 50 caliber machine guns in the back wall. Germans putting down fire, they can see this attack force coming at them. And there's even our Jeep at the back there to carry a couple of our volunteer infantry as well. So the Comets lining up on the German position there. Oh, looks like we may have a hit there on the German Sturmgeschütz. Now the Comet there, that's always the one with the firepower. And the other thing with tanks, they always have the thickest armour on the front. So they try and face towards where the enemy are most of the time, so they've got the best protection. It's also a good idea, when a tank stops anywhere, you know it's pointing towards the enemy, because that's where they try and protect themselves. Now the Comet looks like it's working its way around the flank, around the side of the German position, whilst there's our half-track vehicle and our Jeep bringing up the infantry from behind. And there they go, there's our infantry debussing. And the whole idea here is, the infantry are going to put in a section attack. We've only got 3 infantry, and that infantry coming forward, one section at a time, dropping down, and then the other section comes forward and drops down as well. And the whole idea of trying to keep it in a straight line, by the way, one section is firing, covering the other enemy, and then the other section moves forward. And the whole point there again is so you don't run in front of your mate and get shot up the backside. Oh, we got a stoic lot today. They're charging the Germans. Oh, look at that. Pathetic. Germans are thrown in the towel already there. Well done, our volunteers, even if we only had 2. Well done there today. Give them a round of applause. They've done very well. And there we go. There's a Union flag going up so we can all sleep safely in our beds tonight. Well done. Now, it takes about 6 weeks in phase 1 infantry training before they do a section attack. So the 2 brave souls who volunteered there actually done very well to pick up all that just before a display. What we're going to do for you now, ladies and gentlemen, just remember some of the exhausts are going to be hot. And the other thing to remember is your ticket, it's not just for today, your ticket is a whole year's membership of the Tank Museum. There's a few special event days you can't use the ticket on. If you've got any doubts, have a look on the website, but please do make the most of that. You can bring that same number of people back with you next time you visit. And if you are on holiday, I do hope the weather stays good for you and you have a lovely time down here in Dorset. Thank you.
Through the puddles.
Mummy wasn't that kind. Did how do you think it can?
There is also the issue with spare parts. No one is going to make a Centurion gearbox or a cheap L60 engine. These all need to be honed and installed correctly.